Hi, this is David Phelps from the Freedom Founders Mastermind Group, and with me today are some of my core friends, my colleagues, my peers who I've known for many years. They're part of our Freedom Founders Mastermind Group, and the reason I wanted to have these three gentlemen on with me today is just to tell people who have not experienced a mastermind, and in particular haven't experienced what we're doing at our Freedom Founders Mastermind, what it's all about, because it's difficult to talk about the concept of a mastermind if one has not experienced it before. So let me introduce my good friends. First of all is Walter Wofford from Jackson, Mississippi. Hey, Walter, how are you guys doing down there?
Doing good. Glad to be here. Thank you.
Good to see you. Mr. Quincy Long from Houston, Texas. Hi, Quincy.
Hi. How are you, David? Glad to have you.
Great to have you, Quincy. And Mr. Steve Zehala from Columbus, Ohio. Hey, Steve.
Hi, David. Thanks for having us on.
Just a brief background so that people watching kind of know who these players are, if you will. So there's a common thread that all of us have, and I think that is that we all started at some point back in corporate America or with jobs or just where everybody starts out in life, and we've all three evolved. We changed, and I want to talk a little bit about how that happens. But today I'd say all three of us are very entrepreneurial, and we're always changing, we're always evolving, and that's part of what this mastermind does. So Walter, let's kind of go back just briefly into your past. I know you started as a landman, and then you kind of took that experience and took it over into real estate. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it's just I was working for an oil and gas company buying leases, but that was another career ago. But it did help me learn how to find out who the owners were of houses and negotiate with them. I am a real estate investor in Jackson, Mississippi. I went to an open house this past week at a mortgage broker's open house, and I found out that I had a nickname in town, David, that I've had a nickname for more than 10 years that I didn't know. My peers call me the Fossil.
The Fossil.
The Fossil.
No, anyway, I might tell that. A real term of endearment.
Do I want to ask Walter or not?
No, that's right. I took it in the best possible light. But I've been buying and selling houses in Jackson for over 30 years now. Excellent, so that's my story.
All right, we'll definitely be coming back to you, the Fossil. I like that. Quincy Long, I know that you came from being a title insurance attorney, fee title insurance attorney background, so you've been through law school and you have that background. I know you as a person who knows the book. You know the regulations in everything that you study better than anybody, but you also evolved, and you also, besides owning multiple businesses, today you are also the founder and CEO of Quest IRA, which I feel like is the nation's leading administrator of self-directed IRAs. That's kind of your chief operation right now, and you guys do a ton of education and helping other investors, small business owners, professional practice owners figure out how they can set up self-directed accounts and utilize the tax-deferred or tax-free benefits thereof. So tell us a little bit about yourself and just kind of elaborate a little bit on what I left out there.
Well, as you said, I am an attorney, and I've been licensed since 1991, and so I did that for a while. And I guess what I'd like to say, David, is that I'm a serial entrepreneur because I keep doing more and more different kinds of businesses, and usually I don't bother to shut down the old business. So there I was. I became an attorney, and that was my first business. Then I decided to open the title company, and that was second business. Then I started Quest IRA, Inc., and that was the third business. Then I guess I decided I wasn't quite busy enough, so I bought an H&R Block office, and that was the fourth business, all of which are still going with the exception of the title company. And most recently, in my retirement account, I actually invested in a Amazon product selling business as well. So that would be 5 businesses that I've started. And, the main business, as you said, is Quest IRA, Inc. So that's where we do self-directed retirement accounts and allow people to invest in whatever they know best.
And then on the sideline, you have a beautiful wife, Marcia, and 2 lovely daughters. So I don't know how you all fit it in, but how you fit all that in, but I think you're an amazing person, and that's another reason why I like to have you part of our group, because we all struggle with balance in our lives, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, but thanks for your feedback. Mr. Steve Zehala from Columbus, Ohio, kind of a similar story. Just take us back to where you started and kind of a little bit what you're doing today.
Well, David, I went to engineering school at Ohio State, and I came out of engineering school and I worked in the corporate world for a while, and I learned pretty early on I wasn't very good at taking orders, and I was much more interested in finding businesses that I could control my own destiny. And once I figured out how that worked, I initially got involved in the real estate business, and then that has evolved into some other side businesses, web-based businesses, and then we also own the Real Estate Investors Association here in Columbus, Ohio. And then during the peak of the real estate market, we own 1-800-PAY Cash, which is a nationwide marketing company, which has been kind of on hiatus while the market's been recovering. But so we've had numerous businesses across the board, internet-based, product-based, and real estate-based, and we just kind of change our business model as the world changes to do what we can.
Thank you, Steve. A lot of people know my story, but a lot of people don't. And just briefly, I became a dentist licensed back in 1983. But before I got my dental license, I was actually buying real estate. I just got the bug. I was reading books. I realized that I needed to be doing something that would provide for me in the event I couldn't do dentistry, which was my trained profession. So I kind of ran both things tandem in my life. I had a professional practice, and I was also building a real estate platform. Really, I was doing too much at the same time, and what I didn't realize is that trying to do everything solo, even though I have a strong work ethic, you three guys have a strong work ethic, I think we all realize that there's smarter and better ways to run our lives, and that's what we've all figured out. That is where I think comes into play the benefits of a mastermind. And a lot of people that may be watching us today are thinking, well, what is this mastermind about? And I think maybe we could each go in and talk a little bit about what a mastermind means to us. And I'll start with that and say that I didn't really get involved in any masterminds until about 4 or 5 years ago. They've been out there. They go back to Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. He talks about the 17 success principles, and the mastermind is one of those. From my standpoint, a mastermind, and there's different formats for masterminds, and there's no one way that's right, but a mastermind, I think, is a relatively small group of intimate relationships of like-minded people. That doesn't mean that we all come from the same background. It's really the diversity in background experience that brings the power to the mastermind. So we might have some professional practice owners, some dentists, some chiropractors, attorneys, CPAs that are watching this and saying, well, you guys are all talking about this real estate stuff. How does that apply to me? Because I'm still dealing in my practice. And what I would say back to them is you want the diversity in the room, because in the mastermind, we are able to focus on where each person is in their life right now. And yet at the same time, you can listen and hear from other people that either have gone through some struggles that you are maybe anticipating or going through right now, or they may be talking about things that you need to be keeping on your radar, maybe not to deal with right now, but when it comes time for you to implement certain things that people are talking about, you have some go-to people. So it's those relationships in the room. I'll kind of leave it there. And Walter, let me go to you. And Walter, you're a great connector. I actually watch and model a lot of what you do because I've seen you do this so well for many years, and you bring people together. I really call you a servant first. You're serving, you're helping bring people together. Why do you do that? What benefits do you get out of that, Walter?
Well, I've always learned from the folks that I'm around, and information flows both ways. And I do like what you're doing, David, in terms of creating a safe place for people can come and be transparent about what's going on in their lives. And I know this from going to seminars over the years, that there's always going to be one comment, at least one comment that somebody makes that makes a huge difference. And that comment may not even be made to you, but you get in the right frame of mind to receive thoughts of change. And then, of course, you've got to implement it. If you don't implement it, it's no good at all. But it's just, and it usually happens, David, for me. I've learned to linger at seminars. I don't want to rush off, because that last little bit after the whole thing's over, then all of a sudden an idea is formed and you go take action.
Exactly. I think that's well said. Quincy, what about for you? Again, you've been part of a number of different groups, including what Walter does down in Jackson, Mississippi, and you and Walter set up great cruises where people do the same thing, masterminding. What benefits have you found in your life that maybe you weren't aware of before you got involved in such a thing?
Well, I mean, there's no question about it that the old saying that you all have heard before many times, or at least I hope so, is that your net worth is equal to your network. And that is a large part of what a mastermind does for you, is it expands your network. And the people that come to mastermind groups are not the tire kickers, if you know what I'm saying. The tire kickers are the ones that end up not really doing much for you, but the people that come to your group, David, and to Walter's group as well, they're the doers. They're the actual people that have active businesses and have active ideas, and it's just such a powerful way to network, is with people who will take the time to go somewhere in another city usually and network with other like-minded individuals. And by like-minded, I don't mean in the same industry. I mean entrepreneurially minded individuals. It's just a very powerful thing, and I find that to be extraordinarily helpful. Builds a lot of credibility, because pretty much you know that anybody there is a high-quality individual that you want to get to know, and that's what I really get out of it, and I really enjoy networking with those type of people.
Well said, well said. Steve, again, you've been involved in masterminds. You've formed your own masterminds. You develop communities in your own in Columbus, Ohio. And I know for you that same thing. You don't have these communities. You don't have a real estate RIA group, because that makes you money on the front end. Tell us a little bit about what your experience has been about building relationships and how it's benefited you.
In the context of the masterminds, is that what you mean?
Well, mastermind and in just relationships in general, because you're the same kind of person. And again, I'm just trying to reach out to people who are looking from the outside in and thinking, well, these guys are talking about this mastermind. Why is it so powerful? What makes it different than just going to, an event or workshop? Nothing wrong with those, but differentiate a little bit for people as to what you find in a mastermind that maybe you wouldn't find going to a larger event or a workshop on some specific content.
Nothing. In my mind, nothing comes close to a mastermind. I have to give credit to my brother. He initially got us in a mastermind 4 or 5 years ago, maybe a little bit earlier than when you got involved, David. And we paid a lot of money to be involved in some high-end mastermind groups, and it was one of the single wisest things that we ever did. And the way I would describe it is, it's like having number one, it's having a group of people that have your back. It's not necessarily, this is a much higher level than networking. This is like going to AA meeting. You go in there and you can tell everybody what you did right, what you did wrong, and it's like having a bunch of friends that'll pull you aside and say, this is what you're doing right, this is what you're doing wrong, and folks that aren't afraid to challenge you to take it up to notch it up to another level. And you can't get that very easily unless you're in a place that you can trust some people, that what you say here stays here, that the people have been vetted or screened, for lack of a better word, that are like-minded folks, and then to know, in addition to that, those folks are successful business people, or whatever the case may be. We've been in mastermind groups where people were facing one of the most strenuous times in their life because of some event, and the mastermind was able to give them solutions that they never would have thought of themselves. And we've been in the same group. You have people that are experiencing the biggest success of their life. So it's an incredible experience. It's hard to describe to somebody who's never seen it live, who's never been a part of it. But, I always remember reading Napoleon Hill's book and wondering, what the heck is he talking about? And then when I experienced it, it's like comparing a HP 12C that we had 20 years ago versus a high-end computer. The power of the mastermind is just like, it's dramatic power. The ideas of a group of people that all want to see everybody in the room succeed.
Yeah, it's I think a place where people like us that are entrepreneurs, and what I find is that in my own community, whether it's church community or social community, I still don't find a lot of people that are like me. And I'm not saying that means I'm better than anybody. It just means that I think differently, and I think that's what I find being around you guys and the people that we bring to our different groups and masterminds, is that, wow, I feel like I'm going to a place where someone finally understands who I am and the challenges I have. And again, it's not all about business. It's not all about piling up a big stack of money, because that's not what brings us real happiness. We still have to have balance. We have to have goals. And what I get by forcing myself to, as you said, Quincy, as you said, many times you have to travel. And travel's difficult today, and it means we take time away from our businesses, we take time away from our family. Time is precious. But by making myself go do this on a regular basis, I get tremendous clarity and focus, because we get so down deep within our businesses and in all the all the wheels and moving parts that go along with that, that I think we can't see the forest for the trees. And by pulling yourself away for 2 or 3 days, now you get a chance to really look from a big perspective. Not only that, that you have these other brilliant people, not that they're more successful than any of us, because we all take off our bravado, we check our egos at the sideline, but you've got other people that can look and see what we are, what we have, what resources we have that we're missing. It's those blind spots that we all have, and that's what helps me so much is people look and say, David, you know, I don't think you're really using this aspect of what you have in your business or your life or the people that you've got. What about this? Because they've been there, they've seen it from a different standpoint. I'm just going to open this up and we'll kind of jump back and forth. I'm not going to go in any order, but you know, any of you just kind of jump in and play off of that, because I know you sense the same thing about entrepreneurs, you know, living a solo life and feeling like you're all alone. What has this done for you to open it up and feel like you're not alone?
I'll jump in there. Just like Steve and I bounce ideas off all the time, and there's no sense in two people going down the same road to have to chop the weeds down in front of both of us, so to speak. So if Steve has got a piece of technology that will help me in my business, he shares it with me, and vice versa, or forms or information, and that is let me tell you, that is efficient. That is the time management boils down to doing things fast and not taking the time, not taking days to go evaluate something that maybe Steve's already done ahead of time. Or Quincy, for that matter, about the IRA world. We joke all the time. I'll call him up and the first thing he says is no. So no meaning I don't need to do that. Well, that saves me a bunch of time, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I will tell you that it is lonely at the top, as they say, and I mean on the top of your own business. And you feel like you're all alone sometimes, and then you go to a mastermind group and you see that everybody else has the same issues. I mean, having employees and some of the issues that come along with that, and the struggle of when to hire additional employees, just anything like that. Certain business concepts are just common to everybody, and to have the ability to, like Walter says, without fear, to share what you're experiencing and what you need to face up to. I mean, it's a very, very powerful thing to do, and I really, really got a lot out of the last mastermind that we did a few months ago, David, and I'm really happy to have another one coming up.
Well, thank you, Quincy. Let me just follow up with that, Quincy. Is there anything particular in our last mastermind that was a few months ago in Dallas that either you gained from it, or, without naming names, of course, but you saw somebody else gain something that you just remember? I mean, did you know anything particular that just jumped out, or just a general feeling that you can give again to people to understand better what happens in that room?
Well, you know, I would say, David, that although I got a lot out of it, I mean, there's no question about it, there happened to be one person in the room that was having a real struggle with some issues, and I had experienced myself similar issues in my life, and I was able to stand up in that room and share my experiences, and I think, or at least I hope, that was able to help this person that was having similar struggles in his life to realize that, hey, you know, other people go through the same thing, and I don't know if that helped him or not, but that was, to me, probably the most powerful moment in the whole weekend, not because of the content wasn't good for me, because it clearly was, but the fact that I was able to stand up and give at least a support mechanism for this other individual was, to me, a most powerful thing of the weekend.
Yeah, you know, I feel, not being chauvinistic here, but as males, as head of the household, head of our families, we carry a lot of burden on us, because we have to be providers for our families. We want to provide that level of security, whatever that is, be successful. Yet we all know, every one of us has had mishaps and sometimes bad decisions, or even things in our own lives that we can't control, and we tend to try to take that and stuff it somewhere and just put on that mask again, don't we? And that's hard to do. So when you come to a room where people take that mask off, and it's not all about, look at me, I'm so great. Not at all. It's about sharing those things. And when you feel like, again, you're not all alone, now you feel like, okay, I'm okay. I'm okay. And I've got some things I can work through, and this group's here to help me. So thanks for sharing that.
David, if I could interject, yeah. The thing about masterminds, any mastermind I've ever been invited to, I've never missed one. They're that powerful. You can't get it anywhere else in the world until you go to one and you surround yourself. The fish stories get checked at the door, but Quincy makes an outstanding point, is it's an opportunity to be vulnerable as a businessman and as a man or as a business person, whoever may be in the room. And you don't typically do that in your hometown. You're not going to go out into your hometown in front of a group of people that may or may not be your competitors, because you may or may not know who they are or who they're going to tell or what's going on or business, trade secrets. But when you go into a room, typically like you mentioned, outside of your area, and be involved with some guys or some people or women, whoever, that are like-minded business people facing the same sort of challenges that we are, and then you can really be yourself and talk about what's going right and what's going wrong. You can build some incredible relationships that can help you solve numerous problems, but also it creates that human connectedness that we all need. That's difficult for us to do because we're so busy, like you said. We don't see the trees for the forest. It gives you an opportunity to do that on many different levels. And then on top of that, icing on the cake is you've got a room full of people that can solve problems, that have experience that you never dreamed possible. So solutions come up that were outside. You don't know what you don't know until you're in a mastermind group.
Brilliant. Well said. Well said. What, in your opinion, any one of you, makes a good mastermind? I mean, for me, again, I'm a member of a number of different ones and participated with all these three gentlemen in masterminds. For me, it's the facilitator, the one person who's the host, who's setting it up. They're key because they're the one who's going to draw a certain type of people. And in the case of Walter, I know the kind of people that are going to be there, and I think you guys know the kind of people I'm going to have in my group. It's got to be people of high integrity, of caliber, action takers, but again, not afraid to share real life experiences and serve first. What would any of you say to that in terms of a mastermind? Because they're all a little bit different. Dynamics are different.
Well, you do a good job, David. Go ahead, Steve.
You want a free flow of ideas more than anything. You want everybody is confident enough, or everybody is willing to put ideas forth. And it's kind of like, it's hard to describe. It's like you start off on a Google search and you end up way far away, but you find your solution down the road. And if everybody's participating and saying, how about this, how about that, or what's this, and you start asking questions, the moderator, I think, is the absolute key to keep things on track, because things can get out unwieldy if you don't have a good moderator who keeps it on track. But allowing different ideas to come forth, and I kind of like it much better when there's a lot of different businesses, not just one business centered. So having people from, we were in a mastermind where, there was a guy who did surgery, cosmetic surgery, and then there was another guy from Europe who sold cosmetics to 18-year-olds. I mean, it was a very diverse, wide range of businesses. And funny how well that dovetailed with different ideas that really did overlap. So a good moderator, a free flow of ideas in a diverse group that has different experiences makes for a killer mastermind.
Yeah, Walter?
Yeah, David, I like, to have a mastermind, you got to have people there, right? That's number one. You got to have people there. You can't have mastermind by yourself. And you do a good. You've chosen the right number of people to be involved. I've been in masterminds where they had too many. I've been in where they had too few, and it really worked. How you laid it out last time that we did it was just perfect. And I tell you what, it's not. You cannot check your. You can't just be there passively. Because of how you organize the tables. I mean, we're looking at each other. We're putting the eyeballs. We know when you're falling asleep over there, Steve, and then throw something at you. But I mean, that's the way it is. So it's full accountability for your emotion and intellect all the time. So I would suspect you're going to be very drained when you walk away from there. In a good way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think it's also true. I agree that the accountability is probably the best part of a mastermind group, is getting to know these people on such a level where you've been able to trust them and been able to say whatever you needed to say, as Steve says, be vulnerable, and then to have them be able to have accountability. The other thing is it needs to be the right number of people. you get too big of a mastermind group, it just doesn't work because you don't have the intimacy, and I don't mean obviously anything other than the ability to connect to the people in the room. You don't have that intimacy with too big of a group, and if you have too small of a group, you don't have enough of a cross-section, as Steve says. You don't have enough of a cross-section to have as effective of a flow of discussion. So those would be my points. It'd be the right size of group and the right kind of people willing to share with accountability back and forth.
Let's talk a minute about that accountability. For me, it's when you go to the mastermind, you open up, you discuss your challenges, you get feedback from the group, and you get some real clarity and focus, and you walk away, and Walter said it well, not just to run right back home and get in the midst of all the things we have to deal with, but have that clarity to have some specific action plans you can take. Now, for me, I don't want to show up again in 3.5, or 4 months to that same group and go around the circle again, so to speak, and talk about what I have not accomplished. I want to show up with something to say I did this and this, and then here's what's worked, and here's maybe where I still had some challenges.
There's a difference. Goals and accountability are so important, particularly when you work for yourself. There's very few people, who do we answer to? Primarily ourselves. And most of I don't know about your guys' cases, but most of the people that are around us are either, very few of the people we're surrounding ourselves with are peers. They're mostly people that work with us or work for us or do stuff for us. So to have an opportunity to work with peers allows you to tell them what your goals are. But there's an old adage that when you share your goals with somebody, you're more committed to making them happen, assuming that the people you share them with are rooting for you. So if you can be in a group and you can tell some folks what your goals are, and these are folks that want to see you succeed. They want you to show up 4 months later and say, how did that go? How did that go? How did that go? They're rooting for you, as opposed to people that are jealous that you're an entrepreneur and that you're out there making your own way in this world. You can't understate how important that is to have folks that are fellow entrepreneurs want to see you make that happen. They're rooting for you to make that happen, and they're sharing that. But there's no question, you show up and you didn't take any action, you got your tail between your legs, and you're going to sit up on a hot seat, and you're going to admit to everybody, okay, I didn't get everything done I wanted to get done, and that's no fun. As it shouldn't be.
I got one more for you, David.
Sure.
Also, when you share your goals or share your opportunities, like there's a big fund that's coming into town, in our town, Jackson, has put in an order for 300 houses. All right, he wants me to go find 300 houses. Well, I'm going to need Steve's technology help to do that, and he's got a piece that's going to help me achieve that goal. And then others in the group have tried things different in different businesses that will directly apply for whatever task that's in front of us. So it's not just goals that you set for what you're doing right now, it's future opportunities that you're plugging in people and solutions.
Good. Anything you want to add to that, Quincy?
No, I think that's very well said. Thank you.
All right. It is those connections, and the three of us and other people that will be joining us in December would say that the connections go beyond business. We become lifelong friends, and that those friendships and then the connections that we all have to other people when we need something done, when we need a solution. You've got this group of people that have all these other connections, and you can go to these people and quickly get answers or get other connections that can move you through, whereas if you try to do it by yourself, it's oftentimes a long road. Why reinvent the path or the wheel again if you don't have to, if you've got those people there? So let's wind up with this. What would you say, and I'll just go to all three of you, what would you say to somebody who, again, is listening to us today and hearing these good things, but they're still a bit on the fence and thinking, well, my business is different. I'm in a certain type of business. I'm in IT, or I'm a commercial roofer, or I'm a dentist, or I'm a chiropractor, and these guys are talking about some real estate stuff, and I don't really know if I get that. You've been with us before. We have a lot of doctors in the room. What would you say to those people if they're still on the fence a little bit and they had an opportunity to come, if they're the right person, to come, no risk, no obligation, to test it out? I mean, should they do it, or should they just hold back and wait for something else to happen in their lives? Anyone of you pick up on that?
Well, I definitely think you should come. I talked to a real estate investor this morning on the phone. I said, "What's your take on what's going on in the marketplace?" He says, "Well, I'm all by myself. I don't ever talk to anybody I don't know." And so if and that and he doesn't know what's going on in the market. And how would he if he's in isolation? He's by himself. So that, I would say certainly come and be a part of it, and you'll walk away with many, many more benefits than before you walk through that door.
Very good. Thank you.
You know, Dave, this is one of those no-brainers in life. You got to do it. I mean, the only reason you wouldn't do it would be that in your own mind something's holding yourself back. I would never miss a mastermind of this quality in any way, shape, or form. It's an absolute no-brainer. The amount of everything, the whole amount of things that happen that are positive in these things is you can't duplicate it in any other way, shape, or form that I'm aware of. And I would wholeheartedly recommend it. One of the things, I don't know if we mentioned or not, is also the ability to tell somebody, to look them in the eyes and challenge them, to tell them you're doing something wrong here too. Very few of us in our life have people that, we've all gone through situations in our life where we wish we had somebody close enough to us that would have pulled us aside and looked us in the eyeballs and said, "Hey, dummy, don't do that." And that's, it's not, it's how many times, how much money could that save a lot of us if we'd have had somebody that had that much resolve? And that's what you get in these masterminds, is somebody with the results. Dude, don't do that. And you ain't going to get that anywhere else in the world that I'm aware of, particularly people like Walter's mentioning, people that are, whatever practice you're in, whatever business it is, if you're a doctor or dentist, whatever it may be, you're stuck you're surrounded by yes people that you're paying, or people that are, they want to move up and they want more responsibility or whatever it may be. But when you get around people who have no skin in the game, they can recognize what you're doing right or wrong, and they can pull you aside and say, "Dude, that's not a good idea." That's absolutely invaluable, and I don't know where else you can get it.
Quincy, as I mentioned earlier, let me say again, Quincy, I mentioned earlier that your family is growing up fast, like they all do, and before long they're gone. Yet you make time, and it's tough, isn't it? It's tough to say, "Gosh, I got another meeting to go to." How do you make that decision, and then add anything to that you want to?
Well, I mean, you have to keep the networks growing and going. You just can't. It doesn't happen by itself. I do want to say one thing is that if the person's out there actually thinking that, well, they're in business and it's not the same kind of business, and so therefore how can this be relevant to me, that is quite frankly just silly, because business principles and how to operate a business is basically the same, or very nearly the same, all across the board. And so the ability to network with people from different backgrounds but that have the right attitude, as you say, is critical. How do I make the decision to go? Well, it's sometimes very painful, as I think I shared with you, David. My decision to go to this next mastermind group was made more difficult by the fact that I've missed many opportunities to gather with my church group, and this will include one that I'm actually missing yet another opportunity to do that. But if you analyze it, as Steve says, the value of getting to know these people and have that accountability, it was just too good to pass up. And I wouldn't have necessarily said that before I actually experienced your networking group, your mastermind group. But having experienced it once, I realized the importance and the power of it. And I think my family understands. I mean, I have two teenage daughters, one who's 17 and one who's 14. And, they understand that Daddy's a hard-working guy and has got to keep the business going and growing so we can all live the lifestyle we want. But it takes sacrifice, and I would just tell you that it's worth it. That's all I can say.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you all three. Thank you all three for being, really great friends, salt of the earth, people that I couldn't live life without you. And for those who are looking in, I mean, these are the kind of people that gather around us. These are people that come to share They don't come to take. We're all trying to help each other, as was already said during this this webinar. By the way, you all cleaned up very well, and I appreciate that too.
Steve, I think you forgot to shave.
Hey now, you sound like my kids.
When you so if you're interested in what we're doing, we've got more information for you. We'd love if you're the right person, and we can talk on the phone to make sure there's a fit. But if you're the right person, this could be an opportunity for you to really break some of those barriers, those ceilings we all have in our life, because we just can't see what the next steps are. Instead of just continuing to working hard, spinning on that hamster wheel, there are ways to do things better, and that's what the commonality, the brain trust of a real mastermind does. So again, thank you, three gentlemen. I look so much forward to seeing you again in just a few weeks, and let's keep the momentum going.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, David.